So right up here, we're going to start with Premiere Composer. And if you've downloaded it, don't forget at the bottom of the worksheet, you will have links, external links for anything that I've suggested in this course that I feel you could make use of. And if you've installed Premiere Composer and you can't see it, you go to Window, Extensions, and just select Premiere Composer. It will probably come in on its own, and then you can just dock it where you need to. Don't forget, if you've docked it where you like it and that's where you want to stay, you right click and you save changes to this workspace, and that will always be in the workspace where you've saved it. So I know I've touched on Premiere Composer quite a number of times in Premiere Pro in the course so far, but let's have a real look at it now. So here's the starter pack right here. This is the free version, and all of these elements are free for you to use in any project that you have. I'm just going to very briefly look at a few of these. By the way, the imagery that you see, none of these images, this isn't stock image. What they have here is they have one clip into another clip to show you the transition that the effect that they're showing you will have. But we'll get to that. So let's look right at the beginning with regards to text elements, because we were looking at text elements before. I love these and I use these all the time. If you then, as I said, this is the starter pack and this is free, but if you choose to actually purchase anything from Premiere Composer, I'll just show you. These are the two text elements that they have for you. So it's quite a lot. And there's text presets here, which are slightly different. I'll talk about those. But if you got the essential typography pack, all of a sudden we have so many ways in which you can bring text into your project. I'm still going. I mean, you can imagine there are some of these which I've not used and have never used, but it's great to have the opportunity and the availability of them should I ever need to. Anyway, let's go back to the starter pack because it's a little bit less daunting. And I'm going to look at this one right here, which is one line fill text box. What does that look like? Okay, well, we can grab it and drag it onto our platform, or hit add, and it will add it to the next free channel where our playhead is. So I'll do it like that so you can see it. I've got add sound ticked. That doesn't always bring in sound. It brings in sound if whatever you've selected in Mr. Horse in Premiere Composer has sound. That these don't have a sound element to them, but I'm just going to hit add with sound all the more, and it'll just come in. So what have we got here? Well, first and foremost, as you can see, this has been generated on here, and this is very similar. If we just come here and start typing, that's a graphic. Remember when we added a graphic before? So it kind of comes in like that, but it's a little bit different because this is an animated graphic. So it animates in and animates out. I'm just going to change the wording because that's really easy to do. And the easiest way to do that is we've got this right here selected, and in Premiere Composer, this is where we got it from, but with it highlighted, if we go to edit, we have the ability to change a number of different variables within this graphic. First and foremost, the text that's in the box. This is a one line text fill, so we want to stay on the same line, but I'm going to put in here pizza time. So that was easy. I can also change the text. If you remember, one of my favorite fonts is Norwester. We're going to change it to that. So select, keep going, M, yeah, need to learn my alphabet. Right there, that's done. Literally within a couple of clicks, we've changed the text and we've changed the font. If we play that back now, animates in and animates out. What else can we do with this? Well, obviously we can change the colors. So we can change the color text. You see how we've got this little click here where we've seen this before. So we can color pick from anywhere around here. We can put in a hex code here, or we can grab the eyedropper tool and select a color maybe in here, and that's affected the text right there. We can also change the fill of the actual container, which is the box around it. And we could change that to maybe, I like the blue here on Joey's shirt, the light blue. So rather than trying to guess it, I'm going to select within here as well. You've got an eyedropper tool and I can select that blue. And if I press OK, that's now changed that to there. The green doesn't necessarily go too well now, does it? So I'm going to change that color and maybe go that to white. So that'll pop. One thing that you can't do in Premiere Composer is add a shadow to these, and I have reached out to them and asked if there's going to be a possibility to have that in the future. They came back to me and said we're working on it, or we're looking into it, I think they said. So you never know, by the time you get to this you may actually be able to add a drop shadow within here as well. But for now we have this. We can add a drop shadow, but it would add a drop shadow to the whole of it. So it would actually effectively add it to this bit round here, the actual container. But we know how to do that. Effects and drop shadow. And we would drop that or drag it onto that actual bit of in your timeline. And as you can see, the drop shadow, if I move the distance, you can see that's there. And if I offset it a little bit and blur it out, all of a sudden we have that shadow. The great thing with adding it to here in the effects controls is that it will actually animate in with that box. I'm just going to take that off for now because obviously that's not stock Premiere Composer. What we can also do is we can size this up. So if we wanted to change the scale, obviously we could come into here into effects controls, but because this is vectors, you want to make sure that you're scaling up the right thing so it doesn't pixelate. Remember that from before? So I'm going to scale up from here. That looks good. And I'm going to move it. Now again, we could move around here, but as you see, our scale hasn't changed. We also have position here, and this will change the position within the graphic, not the overall effect controls. So let's use that to move it around. And we could drop it down a bit, like maybe a lower third. How does that look? Good, I like that. Now, do you think that was on for long enough? I don't think so. So how do we affect that? Well, every single bit of text graphic that comes from Premiere Composer can be as long or as short as you need it to be, and it will animate out at the same point towards the end. So if we go here and we say, right, that animated out what, maybe about here? Yep. If we move it out now and press play, it will stay on for the entirety that it's there, and then it will animate out somewhere around here. Yep, out. So you can time this as long or as short as you want to. And you can duplicate these and have different versions. So let's say we want to do pizza time at our house. Let's hold down Alt and make a duplicate. Let's move the top one up, just so it kind of reflects on the timeline. I'm just affecting that to go there, close that down. So that's pizza time. I'm going to select the second one, which is the bottom one, and I'm going to say maybe at home. So they will both come in together. That looks good. But let's say we want them to last a little bit longer. That's as easy as just dragging them out, and that's done like that. Now what I want is I want at home to come in after pizza time, but I want them both to animate out at the same time. Well, just like affecting the end of the handle, we can actually affect the beginning, and that will change when it comes in, but it won't speed up the animation in. So if I drag this up a little bit and play, and then they animate out at the same time. Such a powerful tool, and it literally is just a couple of clicks. The other thing that I absolutely love about this is that you can set presets within a preset. So say you're happy with that font, the color of the text and the color of the container, and say you're working with a pizza company and that is their colors, it's that blue and the white. Well, you can save it as a preset. Save as a new preset, and we'll say it's Pizza Co. Done. Now let's say we bring in a new element, and this is just like the old element. If we drop down the presets and say, well, actually we want Pizza Company, that's given us the place in which that is, the size and the colors and the font. So you could set this up as, say you've got multiple videos for this client, so they're an ongoing client, or it's your YouTube channel and these are your brand colors, and you think, right, that's the place where I always want the text to come up, and that's the font and that's the color and that's the size. Great. It's there. Such a powerful tool. It's brilliant. And this is literally only one element of one part in the starter pack. And as I said before, these are all free. So what else can we get within Mr. Horse? Well, if you look in the starter pack again, you've got all different ways in which you can use these bits of text. So we got this one, which was animating down, but we've got this animating up, same thing, animating from the left, animating from the right, and then we've got typing. So just like these are moving the whole thing together, we've got this which you can type out. So let's add that and see how that looks. That's great. So now, just like we did with the other one, let's go to maybe Norwester again. I do love this font. I really do. All the way down to N, and can you see it? Yeah, I couldn't. And there we go. Pizza toppings. And what that does now is it types it out from the side, because that's the effect that we're going for. And then it pulls it back like that. I love it. So let's see what else we can change within here. So we know that we can change the position. And we know we can change the scale. Good. Happy with that. We can change here with a tick box for the animation. What does that do? Well, as you can see, the text is now coming up from the bottom, not just typing on. Maybe that's the effect you're looking for. Looks great, doesn't it? We can also affect, let's turn that off for now, because we can also affect the tracking and the position correction. So say you've got a font that is mainly bottom heavy and it's coming down here. Well, you can use these handles for finite adjustments. Look, this is moving it around, but within that container. That's really helpful, because I have a client which uses this font, and as you can see, everything's down towards the bottom. So whenever I have to do any kind of text like this for them, I have to come down to the position correction and just bring it up a little bit. It means that you're not limited with regards to the font, depending on where a certain font or font family default themselves. So yeah, that's such a deep dive way that Premiere Composer has, that you can really dial in exactly what you're looking for. Similarly with the tracking, so you can add tracking out for your text. So, you know, you can change the tracking. The kerning is what this is also known as, and it literally affects everything. It's such a great way to absolutely make minuscule adjustments to make sure you get exactly what you want. Stroke width, well, there's no stroke. Well, no, because that's on 0. But if we up the stroke, all of a sudden we're adding a stroke to this graphic, like we did before in Essential Graphics. And not only can we add a stroke, but we can change the color. So say rather than the orange, we wanted the more green of the basil on top. Well, we use the color picker and pick that green. Brilliant. Love it. Not only can we add the stroke, we can round the corners of this box. That looks more like a button that you click. We can change the opacity of the stroke. I mean, these are the things that you possibly wouldn't even think about, but if you wanted to, you could turn down the opacity of the stroke. You could turn down the opacity of the fill. So you could literally take it all the way out, change the color of the text back to white, and you have a completely different looking graphic because there's nothing there. Now, let's add the drop shadow to that, and all of a sudden, we've got a drop shadow on the text. Granted, the drop shadow is also on the stroke as well, but you could get rid of the stroke. If we look down here, we also have effect. I'm just going to undo those things just so everything shows the opacity. Need to turn up the fill opacity. We can change the horizontal and vertical padding within this whole thing. So if we look here, we can make the box that little bit wider if we need it to, or narrower if you wanted it just right on the edge of the text. And same with the vertical, so we can make it taller if we wish to, or bring it right down, just right onto the text, depending on what effect you're looking for and what overall look you're looking for in your videos. So that's just two of loads of fonts and text presets that we've got. But we also have in the starter pack some text presets. And what these are pre-rendered, pre-coded ways in which you can affect text. Let's take this one, for instance, because I was looking at that before. Position and rotate from the start. And you've got the option from the top, so falling down, or from the bottom, so coming up. I'm going to go from the top. I like that. Tilde that out, and I'm going to add that to our project. Goes through a little bit, and we're now here, and that looks great. Similarly with the other things, we can come in here and add that straight in there. We can change the color if we want to. We could change that to black, maybe make it stand out a little bit more. What we can also do, obviously you know which one I'm going for. What we can also do in here is we can affect the animation. So let's get it halfway through the animation so we can kind of see what it's doing, because it bounces down, doesn't it? It bounces down and then comes back up. Let's get halfway through the animation and let's see what this is doing. So we're currently at minus 120 degrees. So if we affect that, see how the text is moving? Let's put it to plus 131 and let's see the effect that that has. So rather than leaning all the way forward, the text leans a bit back. Again, it's the tiniest change, but that could be more of the effect that you're going for. But also because this is being animated and each of these pieces of text are animating individually, you can deep dive and change so much. Say the overshoot delay. Let's say that we want to take that up a little bit. Let's see how that affects it. Completely. I mean, it looks like a completely different animation. Well, not completely different, but you understand what I mean. It massively changes that animation. So you've got all these different elements that you can affect. You could also add motion blur. So while it's moving, while the text is moving through the frame, we can be adding blur. You see how that's added blur now to the text? So if we look at it with motion blur turned off, that just comes down as it would. If we add motion blur and play that, you can see that actually it's a lot more CPU intense. I'm going to pre-render this just so we can see it. Set an in point, set an out point, and control and enter. That just pre-renders everything. That just bakes everything in so we can properly view it. Again, some of these effects are quite GPU and CPU intensive, so it depends how fast your machine is as to how they'll play back. I'm actually currently running a screen recorder within here as well, so that takes up quite a lot of CPU and GPU, which is why it's probably not running as smoothly as it would. So just quickly pre-rendering this will help me show you what you'll probably be able to see just on your system as normal. And so now this is pre-rendered. We can have a quick look through. Looks great, doesn't it? And the beauty is that it animates in and animates out. It's such a powerful tool. Let's delete that for now, clear that just to keep it all nice and tidy. If we look a bit further in the starter pack at transitions are so popular, and there are so many different ones. I mean, we're quite limited within the starter pack, but then I say that there's still a full range of panning. There's zooming out, as you can hear, it's got sound. Zoom in, that has sound. And then we have rotate, which we've got counterclockwise with sound, clockwise with sound. That can slowly send you a little bit insane if you leave all the sounds playing. But yeah, we have all these transitions, and again, these are all in the starter pack. You've got so many more options once you actually get a dedicated pack down. So you got the transitions pack down, and I mean, look, not only do we now have just rotate like we had in the other one, but you also have ways like this where it's anticipating and then switches. I mean, there are so many different ways to transition in this plugin. Pan and tilt is really good, so you can actually pan it but also angle slightly, so it kind of gives a totally different effect. And there's all these, I mean, so much more than you'll ever need. But if we go back into the transitions here, let's have a look at a few of these. Fade to black is simply kind of like a crossfade, but a little bit more of a moment where there's black in the middle of those. But I really love the zoom out. So let's have a look at this with some of this footage, because this is a great way that this works. And actually I can show you how this would affect with this kind of letterbox in your adjustment layer on top. So let's say we wanted to do it with there. In fact, I'm going to do the zoom here actually, and we're going to do the zoom out right there. Okay, so we're in the pizza oven and then we're out. So I'm sure you'll agree that the just a straight cut tells the story. Great. However, if we added a zoom out, I'm going to leave the sound off for now. No, I'm going to leave the sound on and hit add. It measures where my playhead is and places it right at the point where my playhead is. Not only these, which are effectively adjustment layers with information in them, but also it adds the audio right there. So let's play this back and see how it looks. Now you see how halfway through that it affected these. You see how it doesn't really work with that letterbox? That's no problem. All we have to do is take that letterbox and put it above it, because remember how this works. Adjustment layers affect everything below it. So if I keep that adjustment layer on top, these will just affect below, and we'll be working everything within still the letterbox, because the letterbox is on top. Play it back. How good does that look? And that's just one click. Just one click. I'm just going to get rid of that sound because it can be a little bit annoying if we haven't sorted out the levels and all that. But let's just look at that back with the music on and just show you the difference in just this one simple click and the right animation at the right transition at the right time. The food being served. That is why our biggest focus for our products is making sure you get that authentic wood-fired taste. Looks great, doesn't it? With that in mind as well, let's go towards the end, because remember we were carrying this along and then we ended up on the table. Well, just like with the zoom, we can pan, and I want to go that way, so I want the image to go to the right. So if I get it right on here between these two, and again let's just remind ourselves of how it looks without. Again, tells the story, but if we add a bit of movement, I want it to go right, turn off the sound, we don't need that, and just hit add, Again, it goes for the 2 because there's 2 layers of adjustment layer here, and it goes for the 2 free without overwriting anything. And effectively, that's below this letterbox. And now let's have a look at that added movement between those cuts.
The base is different from the traditional stone used in most ovens, as we believe from rigorous testing that this...
Seriously, the right transition at the right time can just make everything just so much better and really levels up the quality of your production. So those are transitions, movement. We also have other types of transitions. If I tilde this on again, still within the starter pack, we have rectangles. We also have circles, and we have diagonals. Rectangles, so easy. I like this. Let's just tilde it out of here and have a right transition. Let's mute that again so it's not playing back to you. And at that point we're going to the right. We're going in. So we could just zoom in, but it's not actually that much of a movement. So let's just go for a right transition. So it comes from the right to the left. And again, playhead where it needs to be. Hit add. And there we are, straight with our transition. And remember, because the letterbox is above, we're below everything. We could always take these above the letterbox and then it would go all the way through everything, but it's not really in keeping with what we're doing. So because there's 2 colors here, we can change those 2 colors. So what do we want to change them to? Well, if we highlight them both, we can select them both together, because if you look here, if we highlight one, we have color 1 and color 2. That's in that one adjustment layer that's been created. But if we go to the next, we've actually got this here as well. So if we select them both, we can change both colors at the same time. So I'm going to change this orange to maybe like the light kind of beige on there. That looks good. And I'm going to change this orange to the green behind us, and that with just a couple of clicks, done. There's your swipe. That is used on so many YouTube videos, tutorials, all that kind of stuff, and it's done within just a matter of clicks. If you were to do that yourself, you'd need a series of color mats, and these are going at different times. So you see they start close together and then they kind of stretch out, and then they kind of catch up with each other towards the end. The green is all the way off at that point, but they catch up towards the end. So it's not just a case of animating it across the screen. Everything is using easing as well. It looks brilliant. Such an easy way to add just that little more level to your piece. Circles and diagonals are very similar, but also within the starter pack we have these, which are social media animations, and you can just see straight away what this would mean. Say you're in a video and you've said don't forget to like the video. Well, there's our like icon there. If we had add, it comes straight on at the point where our playhead is, and if I play it, there it is right there. Don't forget to like. I can then move this around just like we could with the text and scale it up. I could take the color, pick a color from maybe the that's actually really close to that, so let's maybe go for the green so it stands out a bit more. Done. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Looks great. Similarly, we can animate the bell, the notify bell in YouTube, and we can also put up our different profiles on your socials. Similarly, we can, this is one of my favorites. Where is it? On YouTube. Let's just tilde that so we can see. This is the one. So if you select this, and you can say whether you want it to just notify. So if you're telling your viewers, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you get notified, or you can just have standard. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. Done. Brilliant. So let's get this notify, and I'll show you just how feature packed this is. I'm just going to delete these for now, because it looks like it's a simple animation. But if I leave the sound on and hit add, sound has come down here as well. And what does that mean? Well, let's watch. It's those little things that will really just, they sell the animation because they've got a slight little sound on them. You've also got all this text that you can change. So the text here for Mr. Horse is maybe my channel. Let's possibly have them all capitals. I think we can send that, change that to 1 million subscribers. I wish. So that can easily be changed. Subscribed and subscribe. So that obviously changes now. When you click subscribe, it's subscribed and it grays out, and you click the bell. But what you can also do is change the background. So this background here, if I start rounding corners, you can see it rounds off this. But what I don't have is I don't have an image in here. And I know that they are looking to be able to just select an image to easily put in there. But until that happens, we can change the position. Let's bring it maybe a little bit closer to the bottom. And say you had your image there. What images do we have? We have, what images do we have? We have in images, we have pizza in oven. Maybe that's the image that you want to use. Well, we bring that up to the next channel and bring that image behind. And let's have a look at how we then place that where we need to. We can scale it down a bit, get into motion, and you see how I've put it below because that's an alpha channel right there, and we can scale it down all the way. Keep going. Maybe size that up a little bit. That might be your profile picture, and if that is your profile picture, that works perfectly. Place it nicely behind there. And then all you have to do is you need to time it so where it is. So obviously that image is right there on its own now. We just use the arrow keys, and you see how it's fully covered there? Great. Well, we just get that pizza oven and just start it there so it's not visible before. And then there it is as it comes in. And then keep our finger down towards the end, and it's at that point that we're out. So we just trim it to the end there. That's why they fade this to white first and then go, so you can hide when you start, when you begin and end the image that's behind. But there it is, right there. Don't forget to subscribe. Within a couple of clicks, it's there and it's done. And you can then save that as a preset. Sadly, not with the image behind, but again, those kind of things will be updated, and they always send out updates. It's updated at least once a month. What else do we have in here? We have shape elements. So say you're talking about this and you're saying, oh, look at that basil on here. Great. Let's get that, drag that in and bring it to the beginning. Now, what is this doing? This is pointing. Okay, let's click on show guide. And this now shows handles of how to affect what you want, and it shows the angle in which this arrow is being drawn. So maybe we want to change the starting point of the position. So just like over here, we have the X and the Y, and we're now going to be affecting the beginning. We don't need to be seeing those handles, but we start the beginning of this, so we can drag this down, bring this over here, and we can change the end point just the same way, just by bringing that up there and bringing that there. And then if we play that out, that points right to there. And now, if we leave that and bring in maybe one of those text boxes, and I want it coming up this time, and add, so we add to there, just with a couple of clicks, what we can do is change this text to maybe Basil, because that's what that is up on there, and maybe bring that right to the beginning of that clip and move that a little bit along, and then all of a sudden, Basil. Just with a couple of clips, you're able to create something that would actually take a lot of time, or at the very least a lot of knowledge in another program. I've done animations like this a lot, and I've had to take the clip and then take it into After Effects, draw the stroke, animate all that out, and then bring that back into Premiere Pro. Being able to do it within Premiere Pro, especially with something that's free of charge to use, it's brilliant. I can't recommend Premiere Composer from Mr. Horse more. I really can't. We have all these social media, as I showed you. The shape elements are just, we've even got circles, we've got curves, we've got glitter, there's custom lines and strokes drawing across. I mean, seriously, so many things. All these are sound effects that you can just use. I mean, that's a bit scary. You can change the pitch. Or you can reverse it. I mean, the ability to add these in as well can really level up your ability to paint the pictures with the sound. It's called soundscaping, and add to it all. And there's so many sounds in here, just straight off. I mean, a sci-fi drone maneuver. Yeah, as you were. A small pop. Now our pitch is at -12. Should we see that? Yeah, that's a little bit better. If you like that kind of thing. But as I said, all these are completely free within the starter pack. Don't forget, there's a link in the worksheet for where to get this. But yeah, that's Premiere Composer, and I hope now you can see just why I've talked about it so much, and little elements of it throughout this whole course. Because if you haven't got Premiere Composer installed into Premiere Pro, you're limiting your abilities so much as an editor. Next up, we're going to be talking about Motion Array.